I'm Mark.
I'm Josh.
And this is Alter Ego Comics TV, episode number 164. We are from Alter Ego Comics, a comic shop in Lima, Ohio. And each week we come back and talk about the comic books that we liked the most. So this week's best comics include Cowl #1. This is a new series from Image Comics, published by Image, written by Kyle Higgins and Alex Siegel, with artwork by Rod Reese. And this is an ongoing. It's talking about the world's first superhero union. So Cowl stands for Chicago Organized Workers League. And so you've got heroes that are kind of on the clock. They are called in to do their heroic duties. Some of them have to work overtime. And the strings are being pulled by, I guess, the head of the union, or it's someone who's a former superhero, but now is just wearing a suit and tie and calling the shots. And you've got some that aren't happy with this guy. You've got, basically, in this first issue, the superheroes take on one of the last supervillains in Chicago. And so what happens when there are no more supervillains? Well, we'll find out in future issues. But this one was a pleasant surprise to me. I shouldn't say pleasant surprise because I really like what Kyle Higgins did on Nightwing when he was writing over at the New 52 at DC Land. And I don't think I've read any creator-owned stuff by him, so was kind of interested to see how this played out, and was very pleased with how it did play out. It has good pacing. The artwork looks like a cross between Phil Noto and someone else, but it's very Phil Noto-esque, which is not a bad thing. And I felt that the story kept moving, made me want to pick up the next issue, and it was something new and fresh and different, which is always good. So I highly recommend picking up Cowl #1 this week.
Cool. Also out new this week, the new #1 is Dr. Spektor from Dynamite, part of the Gold Key relaunch they're doing over there. This one's written by Mark Waid with art from Neil Edwards. And it's very cool. I don't know jack about the old Gold Key universe. I don't know what the old Dr. Spektor was. But in this universe, we've got a guy who's sort of a dabbler like a John Constantine, but he's more classy and he's got resources. So he's kind of a well-endowed, not well-endowed.
Well, I don't know what Josh is reading.
A magician with a lot of money who's trying to take the fight and wipe out, vampires and zombies and possession and things like that. But the way he's choosing to do it is via a reality show. He has his own kind of specials and web shows and a weekly or daily talk show where he, goes out and fights the good fight, but he also does it while he's smiling for the camera. And it's a really interesting dynamic. The main character is kind of a prima donna. He gets upset when he succeeds as much as he gets upset when he fails. And it's really neat the way he's kind of haunted by these mystical powers he possesses. His life is admirable. I mean, he does the right thing. He makes a lot of money. People know him. He's a celebrity, but it's still hard to be him. So it's a really human, very interesting take on the character. And we get to see it through the eyes of his new assistant, who's hired near the beginning of the book. And we get to see how she sees, or how she's introduced to this weird world that he inhabits. And it's very good. It didn't take the path I expected for a first issue. There were more twists and turns than they usually get early on. And it definitely set up a story I want to see. And it's also very cool because this is going to be a book that ties together the rest of the Gold Key universe. In here we get some brief flashes of Turok, Son of Stone, or Turok Dinosaur Hunter, and Magnus Robot Fighter, and that other guy, Solar Man of the Atom. So it's very cool. Mark Waid is one of the old pros in the comics writing world. I will read anything he writes, and again, this time I was glad I did. I'm glad I checked it out.
That was the appeal for me as well, was Mark Waid's name attached to this, and the fact that Dynamite had mentioned previously that this would be the book that pulled the other books together, and I enjoyed it as well. When you were searching for a name, I was thinking Chris Angel for some reason.
Yeah, a little bit. I can see that.
Dr. Spektor is not as douchey as Chris Angel, but it's definitely worth checking out. The entire Gold Key line over at Dynamite, not the same, but the Valiant universe as well, is packed full of great writers and artists.
So there's some overlap there.
Stories.
Fred Van Lente's writing for both.
Yeah. And we'll see other creators, I'm sure, that are doing both. But these are, kind of flying under the radar, and I think people are maybe put off by the name Gold Key or by the name Valiant, and they just can't imagine picking up a book in either of those two universes. But they are so easy to get into, and many, many of them are worth your time and money.
Absolutely.
All right, also on my list this week is Ms. Marvel #4. This is written by G. Willow Wilson with artwork by Adrian Alfona. It's got a great cover by Jamie McKelvey, too. And this book is just awesome. I'll steal Josh's line. It's just awesome. It's just great. From the beginning, we're 4 issues in here, and each issue has been compelling and engaging and unique and fun to read. And I don't know what else to say about it other than if you're not buying it, you are truly missing out. We really need to, I've said this before, we need to put our money where our mouths are when something new and exciting happens at one of the big publishers to show them that we want more of that. Otherwise, they'll just keep giving us regurgitated storylines and nonstop events and other things that maybe everybody doesn't want. So there's room for all of that, but books like Ms. Marvel and Miles Morales' Ultimate Spider-Man and Nova, those are the 3 off the top of my head. Although I would include Hawkeye and She-Hulk, and there are just so many Marvel books now that are not part of those core super teams. It's not an Avengers book, it's not an X-Men book, and if you take away all the Avengers books and Avengers-related books and all the X-Men and X-Men-related books, that wipes out 50% of what Marvel is publishing these days.
More than 50%.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So Ms. Marvel is a winner all around, and it's not too late to jump onto the series. We're only 4 issues in, and this issue, again, delivers just as much as the previous 3.
Very out this week, too, we've got Batman Eternal #8, written by a laundry list of Batman pros, led by Scott Snyder. Art this week by Gilliam March. And this is really starting to heat up for me. One of the key draws of this is the return of Falcone, the reintroduction of the crime families into Gotham. And as part of that, the crime families someone, we actually don't know who did it, but someone has framed or possibly messed with the mind of Jim Gordon to get him thrown in jail, and they've installed their own new head of the Gotham City Police Department. So you've got the cops working against Batman in a very meaningful way and just refusing to arrest mobsters, and it's a great conflict of interest there because you've got a couple good cops. You've still got Harvey Bullock on the streets and Jason Bard, one of the guys Gordon recruited, and it's neat to see how they work in that system. To see how they can try and step up without losing their jobs because, if they're not cops anymore, they can't help anybody. So they have to try and stay in the system, but also fight the good fight, help out Batman. We also get a little more of the Stephanie Brown introduction in the New 52 and a lead on how basically Batman's investigating how Falcone returns to power, where he's been for all these years. And that's going to set us off on a very interesting next chapter in Eternal that I just can't wait to read.
It is awesome. Everything is awesome. Finally for me this week is Twilight Zone #something. I had it,
5?
I lost it. I think it's 5. It's the newest issue of the Twilight Zone from Dynamite Entertainment. This is written by J. Michael Straczynski, and yeah, it is issue 5 because it's 3 4-issue arcs.
Okay.
It's 12 issues total, 3 4-issue arcs, and the arcs kind of intersect, but each arc focuses on a different character. So we wrapped up the first arc last month, and now we see someone who we saw, I believe, in the first issue as well as the 4th issue. She works at a deli, or she's a barista, or something along those lines. But she's not thrilled with her life. She feels like she's kind of trapped in a dead end and wants more from it, and she actually serves coffee to the main character from the first arc in this issue. He walks out the door. The next person in line is the bearded chap, the bearded fellow who makes dreams come true, I guess. Santa Claus is who I'm thinking
No, who's the Fantasy Island guy?
Mr. Rourke is
Yes.
there. But there's this guy who's kind of pulling the strings of what's happening in the Twilight Zone universe in the comics. And he gives her a tip, and it's a coin that apparently gives her the ability to read minds. So that's the issue. It's off and running, and she thinks she's crazy. She hasn't made the connection that the coin is what's giving her those abilities. She puts it in a coin jar when she gets home, and she's not able to do her tricks, so she actually fishes it out and goes to work the next day. But this whole thing, the bigger picture, is that she overhears in her mind a plot to a terrorist plot in New York City, and Manhattan will be destroyed. So I am really enjoying this series. It's been great from the get-go. Looking forward to where the rest of this story arc goes to. The first one it really felt like the Twilight Zone. I think that's hard to capture in print. What Rod Serling did on film. And there have been attempts over the years at reviving the Twilight Zone, both in comics and in television, and even with the movie that Spielberg produced back in the 80s. And I think that this comic series has come the closest, at least for me, to recapturing the feel and the magic of the original Twilight Zone.
Also trying to recapture the magic of the original is Fantastic Four. We've got issue number 5 on the stands this week by James Robinson and everyone else in the world. Leonard Kirk, Jay Leshteen, Jesus Ebertov, Sam Haspiel, Rico, Jimenez, Allred, Starlin, Ordway, Santa Cruz. They're all in here.
Santa Claus.
Yes, Santa Claus is writing Twilight Zone and drawing Fantastic Four. So, if you've been following the new Fantastic Four at all, you know stuff is not great for the FF. Marvel's first family have found themselves sued by the city of New York for holding weapons of mass destruction like the Ultimate Nullifier, for having portals to other dimensions, for basically being incredibly reckless with incredibly dangerous things. And in this issue, we see essentially the Fantastic Four's history laid bare in the courtroom, the prosecutor pointing out point by point times when the things they've done were not maybe the wisest, or the things they did led to later downfall. And it's really great. Each of the flashbacks that shows when he talks about a specific point in history, and they're all real Marvel comic stories, none of it's new stuff that's being retconned, is drawn by a different artist. So, you get Mike Allred drawing the Silver Surfer and Galactus when they talk about the Ultimate Nullifier the first time, and stuff like that. And it's really compelling. They're being defended in the courtroom by She-Hulk, Jennifer Walters, and it's just really hard. I mean, it's looking at Marvel history. These are things that we grew up with over years, or I did at least, and seeing it pointed out that our heroes maybe weren't making the right choices. Maybe their judgment was questionable, and it's great. It's really just great. It makes me look at stories I already know, things I already have, and look at them differently and see them from a different point of view. And the effect it has on the Fantastic Four by the end of this issue is certain to be felt throughout the Marvel Universe. It's good comics.
It's good. Yeah, James Robinson writing Fantastic Four, what's not to love? All right, so this movie called X-Men Days of Future Past opened last week and dominated the box office globally. It's already made almost $300 million globally, which is what a lot of films make in their entire run.
Right.
And we'll give you our 2 bits on it. And we actually didn't talk about this ahead of time. I don't know what Josh thought of it, other than...
We may come to blows.
I think he was complaining the day, because he saw it Thursday night late.
Like a real fan.
And I'm an old man, and I have young children, and cannot stay out past midnight on a school night, too.
So thank you, Fox, for not letting us get a 7 o'clock showing.
What the hell? Every other studio in the universe is doing 7 and 8 o'clock showings on the Thursday before a film opens. Fox says, no, we don't need those extra showings. Let's just do the 10 o'clock. And it turns out they really didn't need it. But the next day, one of the movie sites, Box Office Mojo or somebody else, was saying, well, we expected ticket sales to be better on Thursday night. Well, you only had one freaking showing at 10 o'clock. Why didn't you do something earlier? Anyway, here endeth the rant. I really enjoyed it. I was nervous going into it just because the X-Men films have been so hit or miss. And Bryan Singer, unfortunately, his film reputation, as well as apparently his personal reputation, have been tarnished of late due to things like Jack the Giant Killer and
Superman Returns.
He really hasn't had a hit in quite a while. But all of that was for naught, because I really think that this was an amazing movie. Really did a nice job of tying together 14 years of X-Men and Wolverine movies. So many parts made me smile. It just was great. I can't wait to check it out again. And the teaser at the end made a lot of people happy.
Also made a lot of people confused in my showing.
Yes. Well, no, they just showed it. Even if they showed, and we'll spoil this.
Is this a spoiler review?
You've had plenty of time to see this. And I mean, it'll be a full week by the time this goes up. And everyone knows this already. So the after credits scene is with what is presumed to be a young Apocalypse building the pyramids in the desert. And I think even if they showed the more recognizable version of Apocalypse, the majority of the people in the theater wouldn't have known.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it was it's a very young Apocalypse. And there were 2 or 3 people like, who was that chick at the end? Because he's sort of effeminate looking. Like, it's not clear when he's in these baggy robes.
You've seen Stargate, right? Yeah. I mean, that guy was pretty effeminate, too. Crying Game. Hello.
But, yeah.
So, what did you think?
What did I think? I agree on most of your points. I felt like it was really good. I had some... My initial reaction after the Thursday showing was a little bit of fanboy rage. They changed some things. I have no problem with changing things for movies, but changing things without giving an explanation or changing them and making them worse. Like, it bugged me that Kitty spontaneously developed time travel powers to send people back in time. I mean, I guess if you think of it as time and space as one continuum, her ability to move through space becomes an ability to move through time, but it's a little janky to not even explain it. Just everyone accepts that Kitty can send people back in time. Other thing that bugged me, and this was minor, but the sunspot that's not really sunspot, that's basically sunfire. I mean, he did have the flight energy projection powers after Gideon messed with him, but Sunspot was in the New Mutants for over a decade before he had those powers, and that's not the most iconic version. If you're going to do Sunspot, I want to see the black kind of nether... You know, he sucks in light, and there's like a corona of energy around him. A flaming guy just looks like the Human Torch.
He wants to see the black nether regions.
I want to see the black...
He doesn't want to see the flaming guy. That's what Josh is saying.
That's what I'm saying. Also, Warpath was about the same size as Blink.
Yeah.
Which doesn't seem right.
That was still alright with me.
No,
I thought it was fun having those characters. I thought it was incredible that Singer was able to corral all of those previous X-Stars to come back, even if it was just for a moment on screen. Yeah. Rogue. I'm looking at you, Rogue. It was barely in the movie. I mean, I was expecting, with all the hullabaloo ahead of time about Halle Berry and Storm and her scenes being cut, I was surprised we got as much Storm activity as we did, and was disappointed that we got possibly a cut scene from X2 or X-Men 3 where Rogue is there. But it's just, I won't spoil everything, because there are some things towards the end that just, again, made me kind of was on the edge of my seat, kind of holding my breath and waiting to see what happened. You saw it a second time, though. I
did. After I saw it the second time on Sunday, so that's twice in the weekend.
Twice in 4 days.
You're welcome, Fox. I liked it more. I think Bryan Singer is amazing at directing action pieces. Like, the way he used Blink's powers in the future was great. The teleporting and the angles and the way they did it was just amazing. The Quicksilver scene is great. The Quicksilver scene steals the entire movie for me. Like, that's the moment. That's the most fun. That's the most memorable. And I almost feel like it shouldn't be in the movie. If the best part of the movie involves a character that's never really used again in the film, isn't important, you know, my question is, why didn't we take Quicksilver with us? He's clearly broken them out of the best place in the world. And I feel like he's got a little bit of a man crush, not Quicksilver, but Singer has a little bit of a man crush on Michael Fassbender. It's like, how many times can we have Eric staring off the screen while he delivers lines and just hold on Fassbender's face? And he's amazing. The acting in this movie is great. McAvoy and Fassbender both blow the socks off. Matter of fact, I saw an interview on, I want to say it was IGN, where Patrick Stewart said after watching McAvoy, he wanted to go back and reshoot the X-Men because he thought he could bring more to Xavier, having seen that performance. So yeah, it was great. I mean, if you're an X-Men fan, this is a no-brainer. It is definitely the best X-Men movie we've had in a very long time.
It's it made me want to go back and watch all of the X-Men movies,
which is the sign of a good movie.
Even X-Men 3, just because I think that movie gets ripped apart, deservedly so for the most part. But there are some really strong character moments in there. Yeah. There's also a lot of bad acting, and the story is horrendous. But what did you think? What?
And just to clarify, and since we haven't talked about this, I'll ask, what the heck did Magneto do to those Sentinels?
I don't know.
Did he reprogram?
Yeah,
initially, I thought he put the metal in so he could control them like dolls.
I thought he was going to put the metal in to gum up the works so they wouldn't be able to function.
And then they follow his verbal commands, and isn't he kind of dumb? Like, couldn't he have just controlled the Sentinels, had the Sentinels kill Dinklage, who was super amazing? Peter Dinklage as Trask was just
And you don't watch Game of Thrones.
I don't. No, I know him from Death of the Funeral.
He is incredible on Game of Thrones. I know him from Elf.
Yes.
No.
All he had to do was control the Sentinels, have him kill Dinklage. Then the president goes, oh crap, these crazy robots are not a good idea. Dinklage is dead, and we don't have the Sentinel program anymore because the president won't support it. And then he doesn't have to make mutants look like jerks. Like, he's not...
Yeah, Magneto is a big jerk in this movie. Young Magneto is a big jerk.
I mean, you understand why he does what he does, but he's not smart.
He takes it too far. And he's an extremist at that point in his life, and I think that's what we need to remember, is that it seemed like he was going to cooperate and was on board with the team, and then all of a sudden he goes out into left field.
And I just hope that if you're the most powerful telepath on the planet, you think of something better to do when the end of the world is coming than sit in your wheelchair and look scared.
Yes. That's all that Patrick Stewart does.
That's all he
Watch
can do.
all of the Star Trek movies. He whines and cries and gets slapped around. And that, my friends, is why Captain Kirk is so much better than Captain Picard. And there you have it.
A little bonus for you.
And that's one to grow on. All right, so we thought we'd do a quick top 5. We're going into like hour 3 with this episode, but it's actually not that long. Top 5 time travel stories. So not necessarily tied to film, print, or
comics.
Television. Yes, comics are print, but
not all of them.
They are. Yes, they are. And I guess we're doing 2 separate top 5 lists. And
I just felt like there's too much to...
Honestly, I haven't put any thought into this whatsoever. So the answers that you're going to get are in no particular order.
Mark's favorite fan.
And off the top of my head, and I may, if I sat and thought about it some more, I might be able to come up with some more.
I need some clarification.
You always need clarification.
Good
It's
rules
supposed
are
to be
important.
simple, folks.
It's simple, but you have to have boundaries to make a list. I'm obsessive compulsive, apparently.
He has 25 things on his list.
Those are just words that are scribbled. Okay. Is Frequency a time travel movie?
Yes.
Even though no one travels through time?
Yes.
Okay. So it's anytime time is manipulated by people.
Yes.
Is Planet of the Apes a time travel movie? The original with Charlton Heston?
No.
Okay, because he was cryo-frozen and doesn't actually travel through time. Got it. I understand the distinctions. Go ahead.
So those are the 2 questions.
Those were my 2 questions.
Okay, so I'll take the easy path here and just say the Back to the Future trilogy. That's one of them on my list. And it's something, unfortunately, the youth of today are not aware of Back to the Future. I showed this to my kids when they were probably 10 and 12, maybe 9 and 11, and they loved them, and they've rewatched them. And then some of their friends were over at one point, and my kids wanted to watch the Back to the Future movies, and their friends were like, "What's that?"
What's
And then I kicked the kids out of the house and called their parents and said, "What the hell's wrong with you?" Back to the Future trilogy would be on my list.
Absolutely, and
There's no reason I think to talk about it.
Well, no, you should point out that is to time travel what Iron Man is to superhero movies. It's incredibly pervasive culturally. It's something that made them much more common. It's not nerdy. It's just fun. So, yeah. Great movies. I'm going to cop out and go with The Time Machine, the 1961. I went back and forth between doing the book and the movie. I think the movie is a better time travel story because the book's written at the end of the 1900s by H.G. Wells. I'm sorry, the end of the 1800s. And so it doesn't know any of the stuff that's happened to us in the first half of the century between when the book was written and when the movie came out. And I think that's some of my favorite parts of the movie. Seeing him go through time and see World War I and then stuff from World War II and the years between and seeing him kind of experience accelerated culture is amazing. Rod Taylor's great. I love Wilbur from Mr. Ed as his best friend. Mr. Ed, Wilbur.
Yes.
Wilbur, the guy. He
I'm
plays
aware
his
of
best friend
Mr.
in the
Ed.
time
You know how
machine.
many episodes of Mr. Ed I've seen? None.
You've seen The Time Machine, all right? He's like the only character that's in the whole movie. He stays there.
Okay.
And I think it's great. The effects were great, solid for the time. It was very dark. The future is scary. We've been tricked into basically becoming hippies so that we get eaten by underground people. I guess I'm projecting that I would be part of it. No, it doesn't matter. The future of humanity is dark. And it does actually have some hard sci-fi elements with, him working out logistically. If I move the thing out here, I'll be outside of the cave. And so it has a great plot, great feelings, and I love the ending where he disappears with the 3 books and they don't tell you what the books are. Which 3 books would you take to restart society? And so great classic
Saga.
Super awesome. Yes. Saga is what I will build my society around. The Church of Lion Cat.
All right, as we were sitting here, I decided to add something else to the list that I hadn't thought of, and that would be the book, the novel 11/22/63 by Stephen King, which is about a present-day man finding a portal back through time, and he tries to prevent the Kennedy assassination. And it's another one of those great things, like the butterfly effect, where he makes a change here, and he's able to move back and forth from the present to the past with relative ease. It is an amazing book. If you have not read it, you absolutely need to check it out. I'm not a huge horror fan, so Stephen King for me is synonymous with horror. But this is more of an action thriller, and it was so good. So, a surprise appearance by 11/22/63, the novel, on my list of top 5 time travel stories. You're next.
I went back and forth on this, trying to come up with, for TV shows, there are a number of TV shows over the years that have been about time travel. And the 800-pound gorilla in the room is Doctor Who.
Is Voyagers.
Don't be talking smack about Voyagers.
Green light, kid.
I'm going to include Doctor Who, and I'm going to specifically say the episode Blink. Because it's a lot of episodes of Doctor Who, and in Quantum Leap and anything else, they're about time travel, but there's not a lot of time travel in any given episode. You know, once they get to whatever the planet or the year or the thing is, they don't jump around a whole lot. But Blink is truly a time travel story, and it's also incredibly accessible. It works. You can watch Blink as just a short film and get just as much out of it as if you watched every episode of Doctor Who. So the amazing structure, the incredible poignancy of people living until they die in the past, the cop who's forced to deliver the message and has to die because of it, and like, you've met this guy for 30 seconds, and I got really kind of choked up when he dies at the end. And so Blink from Doctor Who. That would be season 3 of the modern stuff, middle of the season, episode 8 or 9.
And if we haven't mentioned it before, that is the gateway drug to Doctor Who. That's the episode that got me into Doctor Who after numerous aborted attempts for me to enjoy this thing called Doctor Who. Blink is what hooked me, finally, and it's what hooked my middle child and friends of ours that we've all said, you need to start with Blink and then move forward. So, check it out. All right, I had an idea, and then it disappeared. I knew what I was going to talk about. Oh, I am going to talk about Quantum Leap. Quantum Leap makes my list. Because it is... I have a degree in history that I don't use, obviously, because I own a comic book store. But the historical aspect of Quantum Leap, on top of the, I guess, emotional attachment that you get to Sam Beckett and the other members of Project Quantum Leap, Al and those other guys, Gushy. It's such a great show. Gushy? It is such a... And I feel like it got better every year and was really hitting its stride when it got canceled.
Yeah.
When they started to do... historical figures that he was running into or leaping into. He was Marilyn Monroe's bodyguard. He was Lee Harvey Oswald.
I think it got more convoluted. It wasn't as much where you could pick up and watch any episode. You had these long involved things.
They had story arcs. You had the Evil Leaper.
Yeah.
You had other stuff that went on. And in the beginning, it was very much like the beginning of any show. They were very much Leap of the Week or Monster of the Week or whatever of the week. But I think, especially the episodes where he leapt back into himself as a younger person, or the episodes that revolved around his familial relationships.
His brother in Vietnam.
Yeah, when he's in his brother's unit in Vietnam, when he leaps back into himself back at Project Quantum Leap, and his wife is there. There was an episode where he and Al switched places. That was the one. Just so good, and again, I think that there's an entire generation of sci-fi fans and comic fans who have never heard of Quantum Leap, and it's such a good show. I'm not sure if all 5 seasons are streaming anymore on Netflix or Amazon or someplace, but... And the other screwy thing with that is that if you do get them on DVD, they didn't have some of the rights to the music that was used, so the music changes, if I'm remembering correctly.
That's probably true of the streaming versions, too, then,
yeah,
I would imagine.
Yeah. But such good stuff. And by the time you get to that last episode, I almost wanted to jump to the last episode to watch with my kids, but it would mean nothing to them because all of these people that he encountered during the 5 years of leaping around, many of them are in this final episode as different people. And when Sam meets the person and he wonders, is this God? Are you the one who's been pulling me around through time? It's just such a great show.
It really is. I want to watch Quantum Leap.
We're going to watch Quantum Leap. Store
Game
shut
over,
down.
Guys. Sorry.
He's verklempt.
I'm a little verklempt. Okay. I can't read any of the notes I made, so let's move on. I'm going to say Futurama. The whole show's... Oh, no, it doesn't count. Never mind. I can't use it. Because
no time travel. It's...
Right, because he's frozen. I mean, there is time travel in specific episodes, but the show's not. Because of your rule. Okay. I can fix that?
I make the rules.
You do make the rules. I'm going to go with... The heck does that say? Doesn't matter. I'm going to go with Star Trek 4.
The Voyage Home.
The Voyage Home.
The Voyage Home.
I'm not classically a Star Trek fan, but that's an episode I remember watching before I had seen any of the other stuff and enjoying it. And it's not even the best Star Trek time travel story, but it's the one that kind of resonated the most with me because he's in, well, not the modern time now, but at the time of the day, and Chekhov with the nuclear vessels, and Kirk buying the glasses that he's eventually going to get as a gift again, and it was just fun. And I kind of hate the dippy, hippie, save the whales crap, but at the same time, it really works in the context of the movie, in the context of a perfect future like the one they live in. And it's a important bridge in the, it's really kind of the end of the trilogy with Wrath of Khan. So, I like Star Trek 4.
I do as well. That was a no-brainer for me. If I could think of nothing else, I was going to fall back on Star Trek 4. I'm going to go back into the world of print and go with Avengers Forever. Because that is a time travel movie. Kang the Conqueror is sending Avengers around in different places. Actually, I think is it Rick Jones that gathers them together? I don't remember the details. I've read it many times, but basically it's Avengers from all different time periods that are pulled together to take on Kang, who is going to destroy the universe. So you've got Captain America from the early to mid-1980s, where he's very disillusioned with society. It was right after the C.O.W.L thing, with the C.O.W.L being the president. Mm-hmm. So he kind of felt like nothing was sacred, nothing was safe. So
it's also when he was more powerful. He was a little stronger. He was like bulletproof without the shield.
You've got two versions of Hank Pym. You've got Giant Man and Yellow Jacket, and neither one knows that the other is Hank Pym, which is interesting. Hawkeye's there from kind of the late 1970s. The Wasp, and Songbird, if I'm not mistaken, from Thunderbolts. And did we ever see a Songbird become an Avenger? It was obviously alluded to in the story, but I don't remember a time when Songbird became an Avenger.
An actual Avenger?
Yeah.
She was no, actually. Yeah, not off the top of my head.
Well, Captain Marvel was in there too. The Peter David Captain Marvel. It's so good. I will go to my grave telling people about this story. It's not for the uninitiated to the Avengers. You have to have some working knowledge of Marvel Comics and of the Avengers as a team. But they jump around all over the place, and in the collected edition, they have a nice kind of footnote section explaining where these stories were taking place. And it's written by Kurt Busiek, who wrote Marvels over at Marvel Comics, artwork by Carlos Pacheco, and it made me love Carlos Pacheco's artwork. It's just outstanding. So I'm looking at it right now. It's on my bookshelf. That's what tipped me off to use that on the list. Avengers Forever, folks. Check it out. Okay. You're up. Number 4.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Terminator 2.
Dun 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 dun.
Yeah, they used just enough of the dark and scary future to set the tone. You've got the cool stuff with Dyson and the... it is Miles Dyson, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And the chips and the sacrificing himself at the end, and it's a great, great time travel story. It's not a great film, but it's a great action.
It's a pretty
sci-fi
decent
film. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Visually, it's so fun to look at. I mean, it's such a solid film visually. I think the first film is a better story, and especially a better sci-fi story. But you're right. I mean, it's got to be in there. Okay. All right, so we're back to me for number 5. Number 5. No. Oh, yeah. Is that time travel? It is time travel. And that's one that gets overlooked, and I intend to watch this movie all the time. And I may have even gotten rid of my copy because it was still shrink-wrapped after like 6 years. I'm like, why do I have this? 12 Monkeys. 12 Monkeys is such a great film. Directed by Terry Gilliam of The Crazy fame. And Bruce Willis, Brad Pitt before he was megastar Brad Pitt, Madeline Stowe. It's about in the future there is a plague that has resulted in basically nothing roaming the earth, and the prisons are underground. Again, I haven't seen it in a long time, so I may be just making up. Correct me if I'm wrong if I go along here. But Bruce Willis volunteers for this time travel program to go back and try and prevent the apocalypse from happening. And is he back in his younger self I don't remember.
I don't know.
Bruce Willis is the only one who really kind of knows. No, he's not, because he sees his younger self at another point. I just answered my own question. Brad Pitt is kind of involved. He plays this crazy-ass character. He's got crazy eyes, and he's like, you have to watch it. It's so good. Now we should take the rest of the afternoon off, watch Quantum Leap, 12 Monkeys. It does not have a happy ending. I will leave you with that, is that 12 Monkeys does not have a happy ending. But visually, Terry Gilliam's films are unlike anybody else's. I mean, they definitely have a look and feel that's very unique, and this one does as well. And when you have the star power that this film had at the time, and this really crazy storyline. In fact, I think this was adapted by, there was like a French version of the film, or it's based on a French novel, or something along those lines. Just really good. 12 Monkeys, yeah. Good surprise. 5th entry, and I took one of his, so now Josh.
No, I knew you were. I would be surprised if you made it through, because you love 12 Monkeys. So I knew
I love it so much I can't even tell you what it's about.
Did Gilliam do Time Bandits?
He did, yes.
Okay, because that was another one that was really close to making my list. There's so many great time travel movies. All right, now it's a list of top
stories.
10.
Yeah,
stories. No,
we'll do a second part at some point.
Part 2. I have to go with Babylon 5. The
Zathras.
Yes, the Zathras. When Babylon 4 shows back up, and then later they go back and revisit it, and you are the one, but there's 3 different ones on the ship, and this sounds like Babel to people who haven't seen Babylon 5. But it's an example of time travel done in a long form, done incredibly well. You know, you had the first Babylon B4 episode happens in the first season, right?
Yeah.
And they go back to it in season 3? 2?
Yes, 3.
So there's years between these happening. The episodes go back and re-intersect with themselves, and they interweave in a way that proves Straczynski knew what they were seeing 2 years in advance and shot the first episode and cut it in the proper way that it makes perfect sense butterflied with the new one. Butterflied interwoven with the new one. So you've got, it's so good. Delenn and, both the captains together was great, and I really loved it. No one knows what I'm talking about, but it's fine. Babylon 5, I can't, was one episode just called Babylon 4? The first one was called just B4, I think? Or
B squared? Or
B squared, that's right. Yeah, that's one of them was called.
I used to know the names of these episodes years ago.
Yeah.
That's another series, like Quantum Leap, where if you have not watched Babylon 5, and like Doctor Who, sometimes it's difficult starting at the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, I know when I started watching it, I jumped in, I think, in season 3 or 4, went forward, and then went back and checked out the previous episodes. The first season is shaky. It's, it was the first TV show to use computer-generated effects on a regular basis. I mean, all the space stuff was CGI, and it wasn't great CGI. I mean, it was great for 1994 or 1993 or whatever it was.
Well, because at the same time, or actually earlier even, Next Generation was doing the same stuff, but they were doing it practically with models and stuff. So Next Generation looks so much better, but it's not.
Star Trek fans poo-poo it because they think that it's a Deep Space Nine ripoff, when actually the opposite happens. Straczynski pitched this to Paramount CBS, and then they said, no, thank you, and went off into Deep Space Nine. So it's a story of everybody on this space station and kind of a United Nations that's there as well. And just knowing, again, that Straczynski had a definite beginning, middle, and end in mind for this before they even started. He got to tell his 5-year story, and it's just one of the most satisfying television experiences of my life. So there you have it. That's our crazy top 5. Top 5 for me, top 5 for him. Time travel stories, and again, there are probably a ton that we overlooked. So let us know in the comments, what are your favorite time travel stories? Again, doesn't have to be limited to TV or movies or print. It can be any of those. Also, did you like X-Men First Class?
Did you like X-Men
Did you
First
like
Class?
X-Men
We
First
just
Class?
time traveled back.
Yes. Did you like X-Men Days of Future Past? And if you didn't, why didn't you? Leave us a note in the comments below. And I'm not sure if the deadline has passed, but we've been nominated for a Geeky Award by Comics Uno for Best Comics Show on YouTube. So if you go to search Comics Uno on YouTube, that's COMICSUNO, and you can vote for us for the best comic show if you think that we are, in fact, the best comic show. So thank you to Comics Uno for nominating us, and thank you to you for watching. See you next time.